Alright guys, welcome back to F1 News, a massive day in the Formula 1 world. The best sources you are going to find in the F1 media suggesting that Adrian Newey has made up his mind. He will be leaving Red Bull in the very near future, and experts believe Ferrari is the most likely destination to form a dream team with Fred Vasseur, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. When should we be expecting official confirmation on this? And if he does join Ferrari, what does that mean for Red Bull and the way Max Verstappen perceives the future of that team? Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you are new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Wow, what a day we have today on our hands. This is the RB20. Many teams and drivers would love an Adrian Newey designed car in their stable, and that potentially seems to be what this man Lewis Hamilton is going to have in the very near future. So let me just paint the picture on exactly where this all began. At the start of February, Lewis Hamilton makes the bombshell move to leave Mercedes for Ferrari, and as days go by, that seems like a more and more sensible decision. Shortly afterwards, the whole Christian Horner scandal happens. Rumours that he's going to get kicked out of the team. All the affair basically was leaked behind the scenes. All of the information came out publicly. Jos Verstappen has now said if Horner stays, the team's going to explode. Helmut Marko versus Horner, massive drama behind the scenes. Rumours that Horner effectively was trying to pull off a coup where he would take over control of the Red Bull Racing and Technologies entity outside of the main Red Bull organisation. The Thai side of the board seem pretty happy with that, and they own the majority stake, but the Austrian side are not so happy with that idea, and therefore there's been massive divisions behind the scenes at Red Bull over the last few months and years, really, since the passing of Dietrich Mateschitz. What you tend to find with drivers and with, well, certainly engineers, they don't tend to like too much chaos behind the scenes. Max Verstappen did say this past weekend the situation seems calmer than it was at the beginning of the season, but that may well very much be called into question today. The big debate was if there was ever a time for any of the other teams to try and steal away Adrian Newey, the star designer, the most successful designer in the history of Formula 1, now would be the time. Even Amanda Newey, Adrian's wife, liked this tweet. This is quite a while ago now, way back in February, but you know, Newey had mentioned many times in his career that it would be a regret if he retired without having worked with Ferrari, without having worked with Alonso or Hamilton. And you've got to think from Newey's perspective, he's been with Red Bull for nigh on 2 decades now. Newey might be reaching the end of his designing career, but honestly, who knows on that one? Would it be quite the way to cap off a career by going and designing a Ferrari, which he hasn't done, or working with a driver like Lewis Hamilton or potentially Fernando Alonso, both of which remain possible as of today? You've got to think there are various pull factors as to why somebody would want to do such a thing, and there are obviously push factors from Red Bull. So the question was, would this actually get anywhere? And also worthy of note, the fact that Amanda liked this tweet that said a Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc Ferrari with an Adrian Newey car would be one of the most insane things to witness in F1 history. And, you know, obviously, if you're going to work for Ferrari, that requires moving to Italy, nearby Maranello, and maybe you want to say, if Amanda's liking the tweet, she might be down for that. And this is where we saw the other day rumours that Adrian Newey was spotted in Bologna Airport, nearby Maranello, and we speculated what he was doing there. Was he going to, I think he went to Mugello to drive something or other for Red Bull, but honestly, if you're at Bologna Airport, we know that Ferrari are interested in signing Newey. They've been asked about this, and they've not declined it. They've basically implied, yeah, like, sure, we're talking to Newey, come on, it's pretty obvious at this point. Now, we know that Elkann, and obviously John Elkann, president at Ferrari, Fred Vasseur, would be very keen to bring Adrian Newey into the fold, and, you know, with Lewis Hamilton joining, they have quite the, well, pull factors, let's say, to their team. But even if he wasn't going to visit the factory in Maranello to have a discussion with those guys, it is also plausible that was he going there to look at houses, look at somewhere to live. It's another thing worthy of consideration. Maybe Newey's mind was already made up and he was just popping into Bologna to, you know, scout out the local area, look at a couple of houses and see where him and his family might potentially reside, if that's a decision that he may potentially have already made. And even then at the time, this is early March, rumours emerging that Christian Horner effectively believes he is the architect of the success. This is AMuS as well, and we'll get back to them in a second. And even without Verstappen, even without Newey, and even without Ford as a potential partner, he believes he can still create a successful outfit. Horner apparently doesn't think he needs Max. Sure, it's nice to have Max, it's nice to have Newey, it's very nice to have Newey and Max, but apparently Horner believes that is not necessary for success, and therefore, given the pressures on Newey internally at Red Bull, this may have been enough to effectively force him out of the team. And that was where the rumours emerged as well a few weeks ago now on the cost cap of the fact that Newey doesn't work full time on the Formula 1 project, and given the fact that the FIA are saying, all right guys, we're no longer going to allow you to put percentages of salary towards the cost cap, because Newey, I don't know how much he works percentage-wise, but I'm sure that Red Bull have him on a rather lower percentage than maybe he actually works on the F1 project, because he doesn't design the car the whole time, but he is of course still the chief architect behind the design of their cars. And the rumour was that given the cost cap situation, Horner was effectively going to be forced to put Newey on the RB17 hypercar project full time and not even have him work on the F1 project anymore, because they'd run out of money. Basically, the FIA have said, all right, if you're just putting percentages of salaries towards the cost cap, that's no longer going to fly. If anyone works on the F1 project at all of those salaries are going to count. And that's why we now find ourselves in the circumstance of today, where rumour has it, Red Bull have been trying to put Newey into a different role internally. He's not happy about it. He wants to work on the Formula 1 project of certainly some team, and there are so many reasons why Red Bull might not be the optimal place to stay that apparently this is now happening. Toby Greener from AMuS. So, look, we talk about sources on this channel all the time, and many of the sources are not especially reliable. If there's any source that has more credibility and journalistic integrity and track records than anyone else we discuss, it's Auto, Motor and Sports every single time. So if AMuS is saying something, I wouldn't say it's done, but I'd say it's like 80% certain this is probably going to happen. So Toby Greener says, Adrian Newey is set to leave Red Bull according to our sources. We expect him to announce this decision soon. More on the exit date in this story. I'll leave a link down below, but this is the translation. Is the next bomb in Formula 1 going to explode today? Newey is said to be on the verge of leaving Red Bull. Experts are guessing Ferrari is the place to go next. This is the biggest bomb. Obviously, Hamilton to Ferrari meant that, look, when Hamilton goes to Ferrari, anything is possible in Formula 1 at that point. The 65-year-old Englishman is expected to announce his departure of Red Bull soon. Newey has been employed there since 2006. Newey is said to be unhappy about the power struggle in the team and does not want to be completely relegated to the RB17 hypercar project. The heart of the thoroughbred engineer is still in Formula 1, even though Newey no longer designs every screw on the car on his beloved drawing board. He is the brilliant mind behind the concept of the 7 World Championship cars of Red Bull Racing. Star designer Newey wants to leave Red Bull. Team boss Christian Horner wanted to send him to the RB17 hypercar project. Is he already free? This is the other thing. If Newey was to leave, what sort of gardening leave do they have on his contract, right? I think they wouldn't be able to give him a gardening leave of much longer than a year. But if he was to leave now, I kind of doubt that he's going to be designing the 2025 Ferrari or Aston or whatever. Probably he would only be free for 2026. But this is as it said. It is unclear when Newey will be able to leave. Officially, his contract runs until the end of 2025. That is when the RB17 will also be on its wheels. So this was the rumour recently that Newey can't leave because he's got a contract until that point. But honestly, who knows? Contracts are sometimes made to be broken, it seems. Initial sales talks with potential customers of the sports car have already been held. That's the thing. If Newey leaves, what do you do about this RB17 project, the hypercar that he's working on? Because Newey is quite a good engineer, if you hadn't noticed, and is, I imagine, integral to the success of that piece as well. However, according to rumours, Newey wants to be free for new tasks by the end of 2024. The rumours about the departure, of course, are not new. He's designed championship-winning cars for Williams, for McLaren, for Red Bull, but of course, Ferrari is not on the list. And in the same way that Lewis Hamilton intends to win championships for McLaren, for Mercedes, and for Ferrari to close out his career, I'm sure there is value to Newey to trying to achieve a similar thing. Newey was spotted at least once at the airport in Bologna. We hadn't heard this before. We'd heard, sure, he was spotted in Bologna, but we hadn't heard at least once, because if that's twice or more, then that's, obviously the more times he's spotted there, the more likely it is there's something going on. If that turns out to be true, then Frederic Vasseur would have welded together a super team with Hamilton, Leclerc and Newey, which is, well, Schumacher era-esque, shall we say, from the Ferrari perspective. perspective. Hamilton will join in 25, that is known. Adrian Newey is apparently, trying to be lured over there. We know that to be true, obviously. Whether he would go is another question. Mercedes aren't saying much, but I will say that there is an interesting question here from Toto Wolff as to whether they might be planning something. Aston Martin, though, that's the other team that we've mentioned, and the other team that makes a fair bit of sense as well, because Newey that way would be able to stay in England, which would be presumably a positive. But even as AMuS say, he's already found a second home, Newey, in South Africa, and has already worked partially remotely at Red Bull. So, working from Maranello and living in Italy doesn't seem like a, complete out of the question possibility. The article also goes on to discuss that Mercedes would love Newey theoretically, because he would be a great piece to try and lure Verstappen to the Silver Arrows. We know that Toto wants Max, but I don't think Max wants Toto or Mercedes right now. But if Mercedes were to unveil tomorrow that they've signed Newey, then Max think, fair enough. Next year, at least they're going to have a good car, right? So this is why they might not have said too much. But this is the crucial year, 2026. Get Newey in and let the expertise pay off. So assuming what is said is true, that Adrian Newey is going to be leaving Red Bull, which seems highly plausible given the circumstances behind the scenes and the other factors here in play, where does he go next? Could it be Aston Martin, gets to stay in the UK, remains that partnership with Honda from 2026 and beyond, gets to work with Alonso, something that he's very much wanted to do, but maybe not for that long? I don't know, I guess it depends how long Alonso might be around for compared to Hamilton might be around for. Might be a similar amount of time, to be fair, or maybe Alonso just stays on forever. And Aston Martin, they've got that, Saudi money coming through. The belief is that in 2026, they might be a real team to watch, especially with Newey on board, and they can probably offer more money than anybody else can. But at the same time, Ferrari just announced that mega deal with HP, 100 million a year or whatever the kind of numbers are. So that's going to pay a fair bit for Hamilton, and maybe that's going to pay for Newey as well, because we know that, sure, the cost cap exists, but the highest earning employees are exempt from the cost cap, in addition to the drivers. But just as I was recording this video, if I talked about the most reliable sources being AMuS, is Andrew Benson and the BBC, because the BBC and Andrew Benson are just putting this out there. This is literally just as I'm recording the video. Red Bull design chief Newey is to leave the team in the wake of controversy involving allegations around team principal Christian Horner. Newey, regarded as the greatest Formula 1 designer in history, has told Red Bull he wants to move on, BBC Sport has learned. So they are kind of coming at the angle of the, Red Bull, Horner, harassment, allegations, controversy, and Red Bull and Newey have apparently not immediately responded to requests for comments. But AMuS is saying it, the BBC are now saying it. It doesn't get much more real than this. Just in case you still don't believe me, Erik van Haren here, known to have very close relationships with the Max Verstappen camp, has just said this. Adrian Newey is on his way out of Red Bull Racing. There were previously rumours about the impending announcement of the departure. Newey's influence on the RB20 and previously the RB19 has already been heavily downplayed by insiders. So this is actually kind of what Horner has kind of implied before, that, well, Newey, sure, he's a great designer, but, we've got another rest of the great team that also designs the car. Depending on who you ask, they'll either tell you, well, Newey doesn't really do that much, or they'll tell you Newey basically does everything and at least oversees everything from a higher end perspective, and then his minions do his bidding, as it were. So the theory goes that maybe Red Bull have been trying to say, oh, Newey's not really that important, because they know that he might be gone potentially. And there's also this piece. It's also clear earlier in the year that the relationship between Newey and Horner is no longer great, to put it mildly. So this kind of says to me, this is a done deal. It became once again clear after all the Horner allegations, of course. So, there's another bombshell for you all. Is Mercedes a possibility? Just because, as Toto said the other day, if I was Max, I would stay at Red Bull, but I'm not Max, and I'm not good at making these decisions. So actually, effectively, he should leave. Apparently, he also said this, which is a weird thing to say, but he was asked the question, Toto, so do you think there's a chance you can still sign Max? And he said, if I say what I think, I might F up my whole strategy. So, I don't know, is there anything in this? Is Toto's strategy to sign Newey? You didn't want to tell anyone? Maybe. I mean, you've got to think that he's on the phone, right? Toto Wolff to Newey to try and make something happen here, because why wouldn't you be? But Mercedes aren't readily in that conversation, and they haven't been linked especially to Newey over these rumours we've seen over the last couple of months, which surely makes the Ferrari piece all the more likely. So quite a remarkable circumstance. And of course the other question is, what happens with Verstappen? Because Verstappen has also made it clear that while there is stability, while there is peace within the organisation, he's perfectly happy. And the car obviously is a rocket ship, but there are more factors in play, and Toto Wolff said the other day, only simple minds just think about about the car. There is more to it. There is trajectory. There are new regulations. There are other things in play. So, of course, Newey leaving would be quite the catalyst, right? It would be quite the statement as well from the Red Bull side. Now, sure, would Washay and the other incredibly talented technical team they have at Red Bull still be able to deliver great cars? Sure, but that certainly sounds like the beginning of a downward trajectory, leaving Newey, especially if he was to go to a Ferrari, a very much a chief rival, which might, if Newey goes, surely that puts Verstappen's position in some degree of question. He's going to at least think about what his future is at Red Bull and whether there is a more, wise decision to be had elsewhere. This is also the reason why I think Red Bull will be keen to sign a better driver than Perez. Just in case Verstappen was to go, they would at least have maybe a Sainz or something in position to capitalise. But a massively important day in the history of Formula 1, if of course this goes through and this happens. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Several other updates around the grid I wanted to go through here real quick. Firstly, Mercedes, they're discussing roughly a 0.2 improvement on their car, probably from their upgrades coming to Miami, and they believe that could be a very important impact. If they can fix the balance problems, that's the main thing they're discussing really. It's not just about pure performance, it's about fixing the balance problems, but how many times have we heard that from Mirko for the last few years? So yeah, who knows who Toto is on the phone doing this image, but it might have to be Adrian Newey. There was also this real quick on the driver market. Sainz is still kind of unclear what he wants to do, because we think there's a Red Bull possibility there, but they're not offering that much money, so there's a question to be had. Sport 1 though says that by mid-May, so it was said to be earlier than that, now Audi are saying, all right, you got to the middle of May, you got until summer effectively to make your mind up, or Audi is going to go elsewhere. Gasly and Ocon are apparently on the shortlist, and those are drivers that probably would consider making the jump, right? Because why would you stay at Alpine? And both contracts are coming to an end. They're both open to switching teams. So that's what Sainz has to weigh up. If he takes the Audi deal, possibly a big contract offer that he reportedly has with Audi, that would lock him down. But if he decides to wait for the Red Bull situation to develop, as it may well do based on what we are seeing today, then maybe Audi say, you know what, Hulk will get you, and then we'll get one of Ocon or Gasly. And Hulkenberg, apparently that is going to be a thing. It's honestly really cool for Hulk as well. The fact that, he's going to be 40 soon, I think, and he's going to have a 3-year deal at Audi, according to rumours, and is going to sign that one that will take him from 25, 26 and 27. So crazy stuff. Really cool for Hulkenberg if this happens, and honestly makes a lot of sense on both parties. On the Red Bull side, Christian Horner also did say that he doesn't know when or even if Lawson will debut. So of course Horner's not going to say what he might think on the matter. He's obviously a bit of a Daniel Ricciardo fanboy as well. So, and Ricciardo did improve in China, but he still didn't score points thanks to Mr. Lance Stroll. So Lawson, certainly Helmut Marko wants to give Lawson a seat, and probably, if he could make the decision himself, would get rid of Ricciardo to make that happen. And we also know that if Lawson doesn't get given a seat by next year in the Red Bull family, he can just feel free to leave elsewhere. That is apparently what the contract implies. There's also this rumour about Williams with Gasly. So let's say theoretically Ocon was to go to Audi or something, if Sainz was to go to Red Bull and Hulkenberg was to go to Audi Sauber as well. Gasly to Williams is maybe in consideration, but that seems like a pretty big question mark to me, and you'd think that one of those guys probably stays at Alpine, because also why would you leave Alpine to go to Williams? I mean, sure, they might be better right now, but I don't know if that's going to happen necessarily forever. There's possibilities there, I suppose, and Williams do need a driver, but the theory was that maybe Antonelli in for Sargent, even in the very near future, could be a possibility as well. So that's what's going on today. Lots happening. As always, very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.